At the beginning of the story, we meet a boy named Izuo Sakamaki, a 17-year-old high school student who is so bored with his own life that he believes he could make money by selling this boredom. On a sunny day, he is lying near a calm river, looking up at the sky and reflecting on his boring routine, when he sees a group of delinquents threatening a younger classmate. The attackers say they are going to tie the boy's hands and throw him naked into the river. The boy mumbles a plea for help before Izuo gets up, picks up a large rock, and throws it towards the group. The impact of the rock is so strong that everyone is thrown away. Izuo continues throwing rocks, one after the other, raising dust everywhere. He feels like he is finally having some fun, but soon, everyone realizes who is attacking them and runs away. A few seconds later, Izuo is alone in the place. He complains that it was disappointing, bends down to pick up his school bag, and at that moment, he hears a bright sound approaching quickly. This sound is the invitation to a parallel world where he can have real fun in the so-called Little Garden. But Izuo is not the only one to receive this call. Asuka Kudo and Yo Kasukabe are also chosen for this new journey. Asuka comes from a wealthy family, part of a financial conglomerate. Since she was little, she has lived surrounded by luxury and has an extraordinary power. She can control living beings and even objects. Because she is so powerful, she is considered a valuable asset to the family business and is often used for this purpose. One day, Asuka finds her invitation carefully placed on her desk, which surprises her since no one usually manages to enter her room. Yo Kasukabe, on the other hand, is an introverted girl capable of talking to animals and using their abilities if she creates a true connection. Despite this, shyness is a big obstacle in her life. Since her greatest desire is to make human friends, their invitation is brought to them by their tabby cat, who claims to have seen the letter fall from the sky. As soon as they read the invitations, the three are instantly teleported to the little garden. They fall at high speed from the sky, but end up landing in a large lake, getting completely wet. Asuka complains about the fall, while Izuo asks who they are and if they all received the same cards. Asuka introduces herself proudly, highlighting her noble origins, and Yo, a little intimidated, speaks next. When it is Izuo's turn, he says that he is dangerous, rude, cruel, unrefined, and the worst kind of person. Therefore, he warns Asuka that she should be careful with the way she speaks to him. Soon after, they realize that there is someone hiding in the bushes. Through their psychic powers, they are able to detect the person's presence. Izuo, impatient, breaks the tree in front of them and reveals a cute-looking rabbit girl with long blue hair and very different clothes. At first, they think about capturing her, but they realize that she poses no danger. With this, she has the chance to introduce herself. With a huge and bright smile, the dark rabbit welcomes them to the little garden. She explains that the three of them have received special powers as gifts from gods, demons, and stars. Therefore, they now have the right to participate in the gift games. These games involve betting gifts, money, land, resources, prestige, and even people. To win, players must meet the conditions set by the organizers of the game. She also explains that the world is divided into communities, and that all inhabitants must belong to one. Living outside of a community would make everything more difficult. To demonstrate how it works, the Dark Rabbit proposes a simple card game. She says that she has the ability of a Master of Judgment, which means that she can detect cheating in the games thanks to her rabbit ears, which are connected to the central network of the little garden. The challenge is to choose a face card from 52 face-down cards. Each person only has one chance. She suggests that, since they have just arrived, they bet their own pride. If they win, she will agree to do anything they ask. Once they accept, the game is official and a scroll with the rules appears. Izuo asks if they can analyze the cards before playing to plan their strategies, and she allows it. When they finish, Izuo is the first to play. To everyone's surprise, he chooses a card from the middle, breaking the table and revealing all the other cards, which allows Asuka and Yo to choose the correct cards. Even so, he didn't break any rules. Asuka and Yo win the game, but what's impressive is that Izuo managed to memorize the position of all the cards. This shows how intelligent and intimidating he is. As a reward, he asks the Dark Rabbit to tell him if this world is really fun. She enthusiastically answers that it is. After that, the Dark Rabbit takes them to the main gates of the little garden, where the leader of their community is waiting. He is an 11-year-old boy with green hair and simple clothes. However, before she can formally introduce them, she discovers that Izuo has gone off to explore the edge of the world and promised to return later. This makes her furious. Her hair turns a light pink, a sign of frustration, and she sets off to capture the troublemaker. Meanwhile, a boy named Jin Russell guides Asuka and Yo into the community. They sit in a lively cafe and each order a drink. At this point, Asuka discovers that Yo can speak to animals. After a brief conversation with a waitress who is half human and half cat. Before Asuka can explain her power in more detail, a large, arrogant man named Galdo Gaspar sits down with them and introduces himself as the leader of the Forgero community, mocking Jin's community by calling them nameless. Meanwhile, Dark Rabbit has been searching for Izuo, worried that he may have gotten involved in some game run by a deity. However, it is too late. By the time she finally finds him, Izuo has already reached the edge of the world and challenged a water god, a giant serpent with power over the waters. Despite Dark Rabbit's insistent pleas for him to give up, Izuo refuses to back down. He claims that since he started the fight, he must see it through to the end. The water god explains that the condition for winning the game would be to withstand one of his blows. Izuo refuses, saying that a fight doesn't end when someone wins, but when someone loses. This response makes the god even more angry. His eyes glow an intense blue as he summons 3 tornadoes of water around his body. Izuo is not intimidated in the slightest. He smiles and, with a single punch, dispels the entire current of water, surprising his opponent. Then, she jumps and kicks the god right in the middle of his forehead, knocking him unconscious. Dark Rabbit is completely impressed by what she sees. She thinks to herself about how extraordinary that power is and wonders what would become of a community with someone like that among its members. Izuo's victory earns the community a water tree sapling, capable of providing water for everyone. Dark Rabbit is overjoyed, grateful that they no longer need to buy water from other communities. However, her happiness soon gives way to an inevitable questioning. Izuo realizes that Dark Rabbit is hiding something important and presses her to know the truth about why she summoned them to that world. She tries to deny it at first, saying that the invitation was just for them to have fun in the little garden, since they are humans with special characteristics. But Izuo interrupts her and states that she believes the real reason is that either her community is too weak, or something happened that caused the group's decline. Her silence confirms his suspicions. Dark Rabbit finally admits the real reason she brought the 3 of them to her community. The truth is that the community is on the verge of collapse, although it wasn't always like that. A few years ago, their flag flew proudly all the way to the eastern end of the world. But everything changed when they were challenged by a demon lord. Since one cannot refuse a challenge from a demon lord, they accepted and lost. As punishment, they were stripped of their name and flag. Since then, they have been known as the Nameless. Now, there are hardly any adults left who can participate in the gift games. Only the leader, Dark Rabbit herself, and children under the age of 10 remain. Therefore, they need strong people like Izuo, Asuka, and Yo to help them rebuild the community. Izuo finds the idea of reclaiming the honor and flag of a demon lord quite inspiring. He accepts the request. Dark Rabbit's hair turns a vibrant pink in joy, and she thanks him enthusiastically. On the other side of the gates of the little garden, Galdo Gaspar tries to convince Asuka and Yo to join his community. He tries to persuade them by saying that the Nameless community is weak and not worth it. He also claims that his community has never lost a game in which they bet their flag, and that they dominate the region because of it. These would be good reasons for them to join him. Asuka then decides to use her power of control to make Galdo tell the truth about everything he said. It turns out that the reality is much crueler. Galdo's community kidnapped women and children from rival communities, blackmailed them to accept the challenges, and, even worse, killed these people on the same night of the kidnapping without warning their opponents. As soon as the effect of Asuka's power wears off, Galdo becomes furious at having been forced to reveal these crimes. He transforms into a beast with the body of a tiger and tries to attack Asuka, but Yo easily holds him off. Asuka then suggests that he accept a gift game against her. Yo and Jin Russell. Galdo tries to make them promise to keep quiet about all this. Shortly after, Dark Rabbit and Izu rejoin the group and learn of everything that happened to Galdo. They all head together to Thousand Eyes, a huge trading community that has knowledge of practically everything in the little garden. Upon arriving, they are greeted by a small girl dressed in a kimono who introduces herself as Shiroyasha, a senior officer of Thousand Eyes and a resident of Gate Number 4. Dark Rabbit then explains that the world of the little garden is divided into 7 layers, separated by large gates. The lower the gate number, the closer to the center the place is, and the closer to the center, the more powerful the person living there. Shiroyasha is also the one responsible for granting divinity to the water god that Izu previously faced. She declares herself to be the strongest host in the entire eastern region, which causes the 3 heroes to stand up and ask for a challenge. She accepts the request immediately and teleports them to one of her game worlds, large enough to be its own world. There, she reveals her true identity as the Sun Demon Lord and White Knight. Upon seeing the extent of her power, Izu decides not to participate in the competition, and Yo takes on the challenge in her place. The challenge consists of riding a griffin and flying a complete lap around the lake. Whoever falls during the race loses. The griffin bets its pride, while Yo bets his life. This bet shocks and scares everyone around. The route is difficult and dangerous, but Yo manages to win thanks to a wooden sculpture made by his father, which gives him the strength to resist and not faint before completing the course. At the end of the challenge, Yo wins the friendship of the griffin and gains the ability to fly like it. To celebrate the victory, Shiroyasha gives each of the 3 a special letter, capable of storing the gifts with their respective names. However, something surprises everyone. Izu's letter appears with the word unknown written on it, which means that not even that power can identify what his gift is. Later, they finally visit the territory of the Nameless, a land of infertile soil, no water and full of ruins of crumbling buildings. Although the destruction happened only 3 years ago, the place seems abandoned for centuries. The sight does not make Izu sad, but excited. He claims that facing the Demon Lord will be even more fun than he imagined. The episode ends with an unknown vampire girl giving Galdo Gaspar the beast's gift for reasons that are still unclear. She watches from a distance and wonders what the Nameless community's next move will be. The 3rd episode begins with the community finally using the water tree sapling that Izu had won. Water begins to flow through the village's canals, filling everyone with joy, as they are now slowly making progress in rebuilding the place. At night, while everyone is sleeping peacefully, some of Galdo's subordinates manage to infiltrate the village with the intention of capturing some children as hostages. However, Izu detects them before they can reach the castle. With just 2 fingers, he throws a small stone towards them. The impact is so strong that it causes a huge explosion, sending the attackers flying. Jin Russell rushes to the scene after hearing the crash. The henchmen are impressed by Izu's power, and, as they had been forced to work for Galdo under blackmail, beg Izu to destroy Galdo and his community. Izu refuses the request, revealing that the people held hostage by Galdo are already dead. The news makes the men kneel on the ground, overcome with despair. Taking advantage of the moment, Izu begins to devise his strategy. He says he understands how much everyone there hates Galdo and the Demon Lord responsible for so much suffering. He then states that they no longer need to worry because Jin Russell, the leader of the Nameless community, will be the one to take revenge for everyone. This statement leaves Jin confused and a little scared. Back at the castle, Izu explains to Jin that the community's greatest weakness is not having a name or a flag. Therefore, the only option is to use the leader's name as a symbol, a leader who openly declares his intention to face the Demon Lords. This way, not only will they attract the attention of other communities, but they will also be able to gather people interested in the same mission. Jin then reveals an interesting piece of information. He explains that in the past, the Nameless community had a Demon Lord as an ally in their games. However, this person now belongs to a high-ranking official in the Thousand Eyes community. Still, they could get him back if they won a game where the reward would be the return of this friend. Izu finds the idea amusing and agrees to participate in the game, on the condition that Jin defeats Galdo Gaspar the next day. The game takes place in a residential area dominated by dead trees. The group finds the scroll with the rules and learns that, in order to win, they must defeat Galdo using a designated weapon, and not the special gifts. Asuka, Yo and Jin immediately begin searching for Galdo and the said weapon. They manage to enter the castle and, finally, find Galdo completely transformed into a white beast, with eyes full of bloodlust. Jin realizes that the creature has vampiric characteristics, which raises suspicions about someone specific involved in this story. He seems to know something about the vampire girl who gave Galdo his power, the same one who is flying nearby and watching the game unfold closely. After Yo is injured, Asuka takes control of the situation. Her strategy is to set fire to Galdo's castle to force him out. When he appears, she commands the surrounding trees to trap him and uses the sword she found earlier to gain the power needed to defeat him. The plan works perfectly and leads the group to victory. After Galdo's death, the Forest Galdo community is officially dissolved. Following Iz's strategy, Jin Russell stands before the former members of that community and promises to return to each of them the name and flag that belonged to them. He also makes an oath to fight against the demon lords who threaten the peace of all. The episode ends with two important events. On one side, the vampire girl observes from afar the crowd gathered around Jin and the others. On the other, an unknown man with an arrogant appearance visits Shiroyasha's abode. The next morning, after the events of the previous night, Dark Rabbit approaches Izao and asks if he really intends to participate in the game to recover the lost friend of the community. He confirms and asks what this person is like. Dark Rabbit then reveals that her name is Letitia and begins to describe her enthusiastically, saying how special she is, before rushing off to make some tea. As she walks away, Izao addresses the person who was hiding behind the window, listening to the entire conversation. The mysterious figure reveals herself. It is the same vampire girl from the previous game. She spreads dry tree branches all over the room in a threatening manner. Izao provokes her with questions, and she, without wasting time, goes straight to the attack. The sound of an explosion attracts the others to the room. When Izao retaliates, he creates a huge hole in the wall, which impresses his opponent. Before he can attack again, Dark Rabbit shouts for him to stop, warning that the person is Letitia, the friend they were trying to get back. Everyone sits down so that Dark Rabbit can properly introduce themselves. It becomes clear that Letitia helped Galdo during the previous game to test the power of the so-called problem children, and to see if she could trust the nameless community to them. This is because the game that would allow her to be freed had been cancelled, and she saw no other way to return. Meanwhile, the man who visited Shiroyasha is revealed to be the one responsible for cancelling the game. He did so after finding a buyer to sell Letitia. This man is introduced as the heir to a large historical community called Perseus. Shiroyasha is furious with his decision and even more irritated when he mockingly declares that he intends to attack the nameless community. Letitia, who is considered his property, has returned without authorization. Letitia claims that she will not be able to return after being officially sold. Therefore, Izao challenges her to a fight in order to prove her strength. The challenge is straightforward. Both must throw spears at each other, and whoever is hit loses. Letitia spreads her wings and rises, preparing to attack. She channels her red vampire powers into the spear and throws it with all her strength towards Izao. With just one counterattack, he manages to stop the spear and undo the effects of her attack. The spear returns towards Letitia with twice the speed and force. She does not try to dodge it, believing that if Izao really is that powerful, she can leave in peace, leaving with them her gift card, Lord of the Vampires. However, seconds before being hit, Dark Rabbit saves her, desperate to realize that Letitia had lost her divinity. Before they can get any response from her, an intense red light appears at high speed in Asuka's direction. Letitia jumps to protect her and, to everyone's shock, is struck by the light and immediately transformed into a stone statue. That was the power of the Gordons. Representatives of the Perseus community arrive at the scene with the intention of recovering what they consider their property, that is, Letitia. They inform them that she will be sold out of the little garden. Dark Rabbit tries to negotiate with them, but ends up humiliated for being part of an unnamed community. Anger overcomes her. Her hair changes color to intense pink, and she reveals her other gift, the Spear of Indra, a golden weapon of legendary origin. Before she advances, Izao grabs her by the ears, stopping her and reminding her that such a confrontation would be the same as declaring war against Thousand Eyes. Perseus agents flee, and everyone returns to Shiroyasha's location to speak directly with Lagos. the leader of Perseus. Lagos rejects any proposal. He doesn't want to give them any chance to get Letitia back. The only condition he imposes is that Dark Rabbit becomes his vassal for life. He declares that he has taken an interest in her, and only under that condition will he return Letitia. Asuka doesn't accept the deal and uses her gift to force Lagos to his knees. Her power doesn't work on him. He tries to attack her with his scythe, but Izio stops him in mid-attack with just one finger. The fight is ended by Shiroyasha, who intervenes in time. Dark Rabbit, being a moon rabbit, truly considers the sacrifice for her friend. However, Izio has already found a way to force the leader of Perseus to accept a challenge on their terms. Izio had defeated the Kraken and Greya in gift games, 2 extremely difficult games judged by Dark Rabbit, and won 2 large round crystals that grant the authority to challenge a legend. The legend in question is that of Perseus and the Gorgon, kept by the Laius community. Dark Rabbit rushes to warn Laius about the situation. The Perseus community headquarters are located on a floating island. Izio, Asuka, Jin and Dark Rabbit arrive at the main gates and begin reading the rules of the legendary challenge on the scroll. The rules are simple. Laius is hidden somewhere beyond the gates. To win, it is necessary to find and defeat him. However, if any of the participants is seen by a subordinate before finding him, they automatically lose the right to challenge him. 2 obstacles stand out. Subordinates can use a gift of invisibility, which makes it very difficult to avoid them. And Laius has an even more dangerous gift, an ancient demon lord that he has turned into a slave. Izio then defines the strategy. He divides the group into 3 roles. Jin Russell will be responsible for defeating Laius. Yo will use his senses to detect and eliminate the invisible subordinates. Asuka will act as bait. Dark Rabbit will act as the game's judge. Izio will forcefully open the gates of the kingdom, beginning the challenge. Asuka enters the scene first, using the water sapling gift obtained in the first episode to defeat most of the enemies. Later, Yo detects the invisible subordinates and defeats them, discovering that the hats they wear are what make them invisible. Izzy orders Jin to hide until they find Laius, so he puts on one of the hats himself and begins to attack while remaining invisible. Soon, they face an enemy that not even Yo can detect. It is the chief of the subordinates, who is wearing the real helmet of Hades. Yo is hit several times, but soon realizes that, with the help of the energy-charged carvings made by her father, she can emit ultrasonic waves to locate him. When the enemy is identified, Izzo knocks him down with a single punch and takes his helmet. Now, the only remaining obstacle is Laius. Izio and Jin put on the invisibility helmets and run to the main arena, where Dark Bunny, Laius, and the statue of Letitia are waiting. Laius activates his flying boots and rises above everyone, saying that there is no reason for him to fight himself. Izzo steps forward and states that there is a star in the Perseus constellation called Algol, a demon of the same class as Shiroyasha. With that, he suggests that everyone already knows who the true opponent will be. Laius takes a small metal notch from his necklace, holds it up to the sky, and the object glows a deep red before releasing an electric bolt. This bolt awakens the living legend, the demon Lord Algol. The creature has a grotesque appearance, with the body of a giant woman wrapped in ropes. As soon as it is summoned, it lets out a shrill scream that echoes throughout the island. Then, it bends down and fires a red bolt from its mouth, powerful enough to pierce the gates of the community. Everyone is turned to stone, with the exception of Dark Rabbit and Jin, who managed to dodge, and Izio, who despite being hit, was unaffected. Algol begins to attack again, swinging ropes that cause destruction throughout the arena. Izio smiles and tells everyone to watch carefully. He catches one of the ropes thrown by Algol with ease. Laius orders Algol to crush Izio right then and there. Algol screams again and throws more ropes. This time, they transform into giant snakes that wrap around Izio's body, but he frees himself without difficulty. Algol charges at him. Izio grabs her by the arms. She grows even larger, but Izio lifts her up and throws her to the ground with such force that even though she is 10 times bigger, she cannot resist. Laius tries to seize the moment and jumps to attack Izio, but the blow is easily dodged and counterattacked with a kick that throws him away. As a last attempt to win, Laius orders Algol to use Eternal Prison, an ability so powerful that it can petrify the entire world. When Algol begins to fire the first beam, Izio kicks them back, completely breaking the ability. Then he jumps and punches Algol in the face, creating a hole between his eyes that ends his life immediately. Izuo's gift reveals his true nature. He has the power to destroy the heavens and the earth, and also to nullify divine gifts. With no other alternative, Laius surrenders. Dark Rabbit declares victory for the nameless community, which finally manages to recover Letitia. She returns to normal after no longer being a stone statue. Everyone agrees that Letitia should become an ally of the community, and she happily accepts. The group celebrates in celebration. Everyone in the nameless community celebrates outdoors, with delicious food, drinks, and music. Since the Perseus community was expelled from Thousand Eyes after the last game, their flag is removed from the stars, creating a spectacle of shooting stars that everyone watches in amazement. The episode and arc ends with Izuo setting a new goal for himself within the nameless community. Izuo makes a promise. He says that he will place the flag of their community among the stars, next to the flags of the great nations of the Little Garden. The next morning, Yo and a helper named Lily, who has come from an unknown place, knock on Asuka's door to deliver an envelope that immediately catches her attention. The group decides to meet with Izuo and Jin at the library to discuss the contents of the letter. The letter announces an art and crafts exhibition in the northern region, with discussions about the items presented. In addition, the organizers will also hold gift games, including a main event hosted by the Floor Master. Excited about the Northern Festival, everyone ignores Jin's warning about the distance to the venue and writes a letter to Dark Rabbit, informing her about their participation. They say that if she fails to reach them before the end of the event, they will be expelled from the community as punishment for hiding the information. Although they are joking, Dark Rabbit becomes furious and immediately begins searching for them. Shin then explains that the total area of the small garden is about 13,000 times larger than Earth, and that to reach the north they would need to use an expensive astral portal. Even so, the group is undeterred. They decide to ask Shiroyasha, the floor master, for help in taking them to the north. She accepts, on the condition that they help organize the festival. The previous master of the northern floor has resigned, and his daughter Sandora, also known as the Fire Dragon, will be announced as the new leader of the region during the event. Because of Sandora's young age, Shiroyasha was invited to help with the ceremony. As soon as they accept the proposal, everyone is teleported to the north side. Dark Rabbit suddenly arrives and finds Yo first. She orders Shiroyasha to keep an eye on her while she goes after the other two, who have already fled. To make the festival more fun, Shiroyasha invites Yo to participate in a game called Creator's Duel, which only allows players with creation-type gifts to enter. Meanwhile, Izuo and Asuka walk around the craft fair talking about ways to help the community. Dark Rabbit appears behind them in anger. She captures Asuka and leaves her under Letitia's watch, then begins chasing Izuo again. While walking, Asuka, Lily, and Letitia see a frightened little fairy who immediately runs away. Asuka runs after her. Letitia asks Lily to return to the group and follows Asuka. In another part of the city, Izuo and Dark Rabbit end up on top of a tower, with a crowd of confused citizens watching. Izuo proposes that they take advantage of the moment to play a game in public. They agree that whoever grabs the other with one hand will be the winner and will be able to give an order. The parchment with the rules appears at that very moment. The game begins with a coin toss. As soon as the coin hits the ground, Dark Rabbit jumps back, and Izuo immediately follows her. He remembers that her ears are connected to the little garden's central system, which gives her extremely sharp hearing senses. Because of this, he decides not to take her out of his line of sight at any time. They jump from building to building at high speed, leaving everyone around them amazed. At one point, Dark Rabbit jumps down, which leaves Izuo faced with a difficult choice. Either he jumps too, risking being captured, or he loses sight of her in the crowd. To solve this, Izuo kicks the top of the tower where he was, causing the structure to collapse and distract everyone. He takes advantage of the chaos to climb down without being noticed. A huge piece of the tower falls towards the civilians, which forces the two to act together to destroy the wreckage. In the end, they both grab each other at the same time, which declares the game a draw. Thus, they both earn the right to give orders to the other. Before they can talk any further, the Salamandra community's military police arrive to interrupt. Shiroyasha appears and announces that Yo has made it to the finals of the Creator's Duel. She asks Sandora Doltrake, the new master of the Northern Floor, to announce the rules for the grand finals. Later, Izuo, Dark Rabbit, Lily, and Shiroyasha gather before Sandora, taking responsibility for the chaos caused during the festival due to the fight. To everyone's surprise, Sandora decides not to punish anyone, treating the incident as an advance payment for the help they will provide in the north. This decision displeases her brother, Mandora, the police officer who brought them to her. While Sandora talks to Jim and Lily, friends she has not seen for a long time, Mandora becomes even more angry and tries to attack Izuo with his sword, which is easily blocked using only one of Izuo's legs. With the commotion over, Shiroyasha begins to explain the real reason why the group was called to help with the festival. She reveals a prediction of a demon lord attack during the fire dragon ceremony. Meanwhile, Asuka explores the fair accompanied by her new fairy friend named Rattenfänger. The two admire the works of art when they are chased by a horde of rats, who seem to be specifically targeting the fairy. Asuka tries to use her gift to command the rats to return to their nests, but finds that her powers have no effect on them. Letitia, who had been searching for Asuka, appears in her adult form and saves them just in time. Later, everyone gathers in a room around a table to discuss plans for the next day's festival. After a soak in the hot springs, the group relaxes. Shiroyasha asks Dark Rabbit to act as chairman and referee for the gift games, making a proper public appearance. Curious, Yo asks who her opponent will be in the finals. Shiroyasha replies that she can only reveal the names of the communities involved. One of them is Rattenfänger, related to the ancient tale of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. The conversation then turns to a community led by a demon lord known as the Grim Grimoire. This community summoned demons from ancient grimoires, but was defeated in a gift game, which caused its downfall. When the demon lord fell, the group lost all power. The scariest thing about this community was the Pied Piper, a man who wore colorful clothes and was known for luring and killing 130 children. This man is none other than Rattenfänger, also known as the Master of Rats. Asuka begins to worry that her new friend may be in league with the demon lord. Meanwhile, Izuo and the others settle into the stands of the arena, eager to watch Yo's final match. She will face Aisha Ignis Fatus, a girl from the Wisp community. Aisha's gift, the legendary monster known as Jack, is considered the most powerful ability in her community. With a single clap from Shiroyasha, the game's scenario completely changes. The participants find themselves inside a gigantic tree, and the mission is to escape or destroy the opponent's gift. Aisha is distracted by a conversation, and this allows Yo to take the opportunity to run away and start looking for an escape route. Aisha realizes this soon after and begins the chase, launching attacks with the natural gas flames of the present Wisp, famous for its destructive capacity. Yo, upon realizing that his opponent is not the leader of the community, a demonic entity that inhabits the border between life and death, feels relief. She believes that, because of this, victory will be easier than she imagined. Yo cleverly analyzes the airflow and realizes that it is moving towards the exit. With that, she follows that path. However, the escape proves more difficult than expected. The monster Jack begins to surround her with his flames, blocking her advance and giving Aisha time to approach. Yo's fear increases drastically when she understands, from Aisha's conversation, that her opponent was once a wandering spirit, adopted by the same demon lord she fears so much. Yo also discovers that Jack is not just any monster, but an immortal creation made by the gift of that lord. Faced with this revelation, Yo decides to surrender without hesitation, declaring Aisha's victory. Shortly after the end of the final match, something disturbing happens. Thousands of black scrolls begin to fall from the sky like rain. Izu grabs one of them and reads the contents aloud. The game will include all the communities in the region. The host will be the game master Shiroyasha. To win, she must make all the players surrender or be massacred. The players will only be able to win if they can destroy the false legend and reveal the true one. The atmosphere becomes becomes even more terrifying when the demon lord appears with two servants at his side. The three are riding a monstrous creature known as Strong. Izuo takes it upon himself to face the enemy and orders Jin to deal with Shiroyasha and the chaos in the city. With a powerful leap, he collides with one of the servants, grabs him by the shirt, and easily drags him through a wall. The enemy manages to break free and summons a giant bat. He uses it to spread a viscous, dark substance on the wall, which ends up trapping Izuo. Ratten, the other servant, asks her partner Wazer to hurry. However, Wazer insists on dealing with Izuo personally and orders Ratten to come down. Upon hearing each other's names, Izuo quickly understands their identities. Both are figures born from the legend of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Ratten represents the rats, while Wazer represents the Weser River. Meanwhile, Letitia tries to resist the demon lord, who now presents himself as the Black Percher. However, the enemy's dark and powerful aura saps Letitia's strength until she loses consciousness. Just as Black Percher is about to land the final blow, a flaming attack from Sandora, Salamander's fire dragon, interrupts the fight. Still, the attack has little effect on the demon lord. In the city streets, the military police, Lily, and Aisha struggle to control the chaos. Meanwhile, with Shiroyasha now completely sealed, she uses her last bit of strength to ask Asuka, Yo, and Jin to deliver an urgent message to Dark Rabbit. She explains that there is a high chance that they will lose the game, as the rules were written in a purposefully confusing and incomplete manner. She also reveals that the demon lord belongs to a new community. Before she can explain the method used to seal her, Ratten appears and launches an attack, causing several deformed citizens to rush at them. They manage to dodge the initial attack, but Ratten summons a flute and begins playing a melody that severely affects everyone's hearing, especially Yo, whose senses are heightened. Faced with the sudden attack, Asuka uses her gift to order Jin to take Yo to safety, while she decides to face Ratten herself. However, Asuka is easily defeated and falls to the ground. Ratten then rises into the sky, continuing to play his music, which hypnotizes the entire population and plunges everyone into a state of terrifying trance. The widespread chaos in the city is interrupted when Dark Rabbit, as the Master of Judgment, appears at the top of a tower and announces that the gift game will be temporarily suspended until a decision can be made. Players and hosts gather around the negotiating table. The discussion begins with a suspicion that the hosts have committed irregularities, which they deny. After checking the information with the central system of the Little Garden, Dark Rabbit confirms that there was no cheating. With this clarified, the Demon Lord proposes to suspend the game for a month before an agreement can be reached. Jin uses his vast knowledge to reveal the identity of the enemy. This is Pest, the personification of the Black Death, one of the most devastating pandemics in history. Pest admits that she has already implanted her infectious agent in some of the participants and offers a dark deal. If the communities surrender and join the Grim Grimoire of Hamelin, she will free Asuka and spare the others. Izuo realizes that the enemy community is new and needs more members. Jin then reveals another worrying piece of information. Symptoms of the Black Death can appear in just 2 days. With the imminent risk, everyone begins to discuss intensely, trying to reduce the game's suspension time. The group decides to take a break of only 1 week, with Dark Rabbit included as a participant in the game and with a time limit set. During this time, Aisha, Lily, and Yo continue to help the injured in the city. The Yellow Fairy tries to wake Asuka, who is still unconscious. When Asuka finally awakens, she sees a familiar object from the exhibition hall, surrounded by several fairies. They introduce her to the red steel giant, Dean, and ask her to use this weapon to put an end to Reitenfanger's false tale. These fairies reveal themselves to be the children lost in the tragedy of Hamelin. They ask Asuka to use her gift to control Dean, believing that this will bring hope for victory against the hosts. After talking with Yo, Aisha understands 2 important points. First, according to the theory of the intersection of parallel worlds, different events can occur in different timelines, but converge at certain moments to the same result, which in this case is the loss of the 133 children of Hamelin. From this, he discovers the truth, and the truth is that both Pest, Ratten, and Strom are part of a false legend, which was later added to by the Black Death. The reason for this is clear. The Pied Piper who controls the rats, Rattenfanger, does not appear in the original inscription. When he appears in the stories, it was already the 15th century, the height of the plague. This means that Ratten, who represents the rats, Pest, who represents the disease, and Strom, who represents the storm, are invented elements. However, the hill mentioned in the original inscription leads to the Weser River, suggesting that only the Weser is part of the true legend. The conclusion is straightforward. To destroy the false legend and reveal the true one, they will need to break the stained glass window that represents the incorrect story, and that is present on the battlefield. A week has passed since the suspension. The game resumes, and all the citizens begin to destroy the stained glass windows scattered around the city. Following Izio's conclusion, this action seems to be the correct answer to the puzzle, as Pest immediately activates Hamelин's grimoire, which summons the entire city of Hamelin as a barrier to prevent the players from reaching the glass panels. Jin takes the lead and directs everyone to find the church. Amidst the confusion, Weser reappears with even more strength than in the previous battle. With a powerful swing of his enormous staff, he throws Izio into the air. Izio falls to the ground coughing up blood. Despite being injured, he gets up excitedly, and the two collide directly, generating a devastating wave of wind. Sandora and Dark Rabbit team up and launch an attack on Pest, but the aura barrier she created blocks everything with ease. Meanwhile, Jin and his allies manage to locate the correct panel of colored glass. However, before they can destroy it, Ratten appears and launches a violent offensive with double the force. A devastating attack from Strom is about to hit the group, but Asuka appears piloting her giant robot and pulverizes the threat into countless fragments. Izio blocks a direct hit from Weezer's weapon with his bare arms, but the impact throws him a great distance. Weezer realizes that Izio has fully understood the riddle and tries to convince him to join the Demon Lord's side, offering him an exciting journey. Izio firmly refuses, determined to follow his own goals. With their intentions revealed, the two engage in another violent confrontation. Izio accuses Weezer of holding back and claims that he has not yet used his most powerful card. Enraged, Weezer accepts the challenge and attacks with even greater force. The two clash again with attacks more intense than before. Meanwhile, Asuka, controlling Dean, the giant robot, destroys all of the multiple Stroms summoned by Ratten effortlessly. When she finally captures Ratten, she orders him to play one last song on his flute, the Pied Piper of Hamelin. On the other side of the battle, Dark Rabbit and Sandora continue to try to reach the Demon Lord, but they realize that Pest is not just an entity. She represents the incarnate spirit of hatred and resentment of the 80 million people who died due to the plague caused by the rising temperatures in the past. Consumed by a desire for revenge, Pest blames Shiroyasha, the one responsible for the sun, for not saving those lives. She directs all her fury at her. After playing the melody, Ratten acknowledges her defeat and disappears, undoing her presence. The battle between Izio and Weezer continues for longer than expected, and Weezer begins to question who Izio really is. With the destruction of his weapon, he accepts defeat and decides to retreat. As he begins to fade away, Izio states that he enjoyed every moment of the fight, as no other opponent had been able to keep up with him in combat until then. Seeing that both servants have been defeated, Pest declares that she will take Shiroyasha with her and kill everyone else. She summons a dark wind that spreads throughout the city, causing everyone who comes into contact with it to faint. During the chaos, Dark Rabbit is caught off guard by a direct attack from Pest, but Izio appears in time, intercepting the blow. He redirects the grimoire's attacks with a powerful kick and follows with a series of quick attacks. Pest, however, dodges them all with ease. Undeterred, Izio delivers another kick, strong enough to shake the battlefield, but Pest still shows no weakness. Dark Rabbit and Sandora join forces once more and try to strike Pest in sync, but the attempt fails. Izio takes advantage of the opening and lands a precise kick. Angered, Pest counterattacks with an attack aimed at all three at the same time, showing that she wants to end the fight once and for all. Pest raises her arms, preparing to release more of her deadly wind into the sky. However, Dark Rabbit had already devised a plan. Using her gift card, she transports everyone to a new location, the moon. Thus, they escape the reach of Hamelin's grimoire. Pest, now overcome with rage, tries to attack again, but Dark Rabbit uses her gift a second time. With that, she channels sunlight directly at Pest, weakening his energy and draining his power. Izuo seizes the opportunity. He delivers one last, precisely timed kick, positioning Pest right in front of Asuka. At this moment, Asuka summons the powerful Spear of Indra, using the fragment that Dark Rabbit gave her earlier. She orders the giant robot to launch the weapon at Pest. Pest tries to escape, but finds herself trapped inside a prison of flames created by Sandora. The spear hits its target perfectly, ending the fight with the group's victory, achieved through teamwork. With the end of the battle, peace is restored. Shiroyasha, now freed from the seal, apologizes to the public for not being able to help them sooner. After this, Sandora speaks and officially declares the Salamandra community's victory in the game against the Demon Lord. Then the fairies, or rather the spirits of the lost children, finally manage to return to their time of origin. As they wished, they entrust the giant Dean to Asuka, saying that he is an important friend of theirs, as is the little fairy named Maron who accompanied Asuka. With the conflict resolved, Izuo goes to Mandora's office to make an important revelation. He tells them that the Salamandra community had intentionally invited the Demon Lord to the festival. The plan was to pit a novice floor master against an equally inexperienced Demon Lord. If Sandora were to emerge victorious, it would boost the community's reputation and serve as a great advertisement. Even though he understands the strategy, Izuo adopts a serious tone when expressing his concern for the safety of his friends. He says that if any of them had suffered because of this manipulation, he would have taken revenge on everyone involved, including Sandora. Mandora tries to justify himself, saying that everything was done to protect the flag and the honor of the community. Faced with Mandora's words, Izuo accepts the explanation, but imposes one condition. He declares that if the nameless community faces difficulties in the future, Salamandra must be the first to help them. Finally, the nameless community resumes its mission to restore the lost land. Now counting on the support of Maron and the powerful giant robot Dean, united as a true team, they all move forward with determination, ready to face any challenge that comes their way.